Joining me now, former Secretary of State and Fox News contributor Mike Pompeo. Welcome back to Fox News Sunday. Let's talk about your reaction this morning. You have long known the threat from Iran. You've heard the criticism this morning of the Trump administration in its first round, withdrawing from an agreement that the left and others want to argue is actually helping us to keep an eye on their nuclear ambitions. Your reaction this morning?
Well, good morning, Shannon. I was listening to Senator Kaine. I remember 2015 when I thought the JCPOA, the nuclear deal, was a terrible deal. He said President Trump's cabinet was against withdrawing. I can tell you one cabinet member was not. I wasn't. I thought it was the right thing to do to keep America safe. And here we sit in 2025. Many of the provisions of that very agreement would have expired by now or have expired in another 36 months. It had put Iran on a pathway to a nuclear weapon. It created enormous risk for the United States. And today, and last night, President Trump has taken action to reduce that risk dramatically for the United States, for Israel, for the Gulf Arab nations, and for the world.
So now we wonder what Iran's next move will be. I want to read something from the Economic Times. They say this: with the Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei forced into hiding and Iran's military leadership in disarray, security experts warn that the regime could now resort to activating its global network of sleeper agents to retaliate. These individuals, embedded across Western nations, may receive orders to target public spaces, religious sites, or high-profile political figures, including U.S. President Donald Trump, who remains a top target due to his role in the killing of Iranian.
Dame Smith says, Anton, how do you think Kamala will handle this? Oh, my God. We would all be absolutely probably going... I don't believe, man, let me tell you something, bro. That is a nightmare. That is a nightmare. That could quite possibly be. Now, I do believe that God saved us from that. I think but that's almost like a trolling question, big dog. My only concern, which I wouldn't even say that it's a concern, but the only thing that I could think of that Iran could possibly have that would threaten the position of the United States of America would be activating a sleeper cell. This is also a conversation that has been that we have been having all over the weekend, and that what does a sleeper cell look like? How does that play out? Because their back is against the wall. And so I believe that every country has, well, not every country. I think that almost every superpower in every major country that had some level of stabilization has sleeper cells in almost every country. I also think that that's one of the reasons why we are adamant about making sure that we deport people that are not here legally and documented. It makes it less of a threat for us to make sure that we get people up out of here. I believe that the promises made, promises kept, as far as getting illegal migrants out of the United States of America, actually is designed to do multiple different things, one of which is to keep us safer. I think that we have over 1,000 teams, as Tom Homan stated, that is dedicated to trying to uproot people that are here illegally, because if you do not have borders, you do not have a secure country, you do not have a country. And so that's one of probably the most egregious things that Biden and Kamala Harris did, was to allow for the import of migrants inside of the United States of America to the tune of probably well over 10 million people undocumented. 100%. Because we basically just opened up the floodgates and said anybody can come in here at any time and do what you want to do, and we don't even know where you at, and we don't know where you documented, and so we just gonna bust you to wherever you want to go, and you can play it by ear from there. I believe that there are multiple different things happening at the same time that probably can't be communicated to the general public. One of the reasons why we are so dedicated to cleaning up our streets as far as illegal migrants in the United States of America, especially the ones that stay out of the way, is because it makes us safer. And it's not until something happens, that you then say, we should have closed off our borders. We should have vetted everybody that came in here. we shouldn't have just let anybody and their mama come in here and say this is open borders, trusting that everybody is going to treat your home, which is the United States of America, in the same way that they treat their home.
And General Qassam Soleimani in 2020, you have an understanding of
I ain't even going to respond to people with no profile photo no more. That's over.
that. How worried should we be about potential sleeper cells in this country and other places?
Shannon, it's a real concern. I'm confident that President Trump took this into consideration as one of the risks when he decided to be so decisive to get Iran away from its nuclear program in the deep way that he did. We have an FBI that's doing good work. Iran has been trying for many, many years to come after former senior government officials and other Americans here inside our country. They've actually taken assassination efforts here in the country and in Europe and Paris and Brussels. These are real risks. We need to do the necessary to protect the American people. And there's always risks and trade-offs in every decision that a president makes. He made the right one last night in going after the Iranian nuclear program in such a serious way that will undoubtedly set them back 4 years. And now we need to do the necessary. Protect our soldiers, sailors, and airmen wherever they may be, at Al-Assad Air Base, at Al-Udeid, any place we may find them in the Middle East, and those of us in the United States as well. I'm confident that we can do that too.
I want to quickly ask you about this. Iranian officials are calling for the UN Security Council to have an emergency meeting. Here's what the UN Secretary General said, part of it last night. I'm gravely alarmed by the use of force by the U.S. against Iran today. This is a dangerous escalation in a region already on the edge and a direct threat to international peace and security. There's no military solution. The only path forward is diplomacy. The only hope is peace. The UN, not known as a place that is supportive of Israel and many times the U.S. What do you make of where they may go with this?
Shannon, that statement from the Secretary General is sad, but
thank you, Mr. DJ. On
the UN has become deeply anti-Semitic. It's voted against Israel dozens and dozens of times. And for the Secretary General of the United Nations not to understand who the aggressor was here, wasn't the United States. The aggressor was not Israel. They were the ones that have been attacked time and time again by the Iranians. On October 7th, a couple thousand still hostages held in Gaza by the Iranians. The Houthis firing missiles into Israel, into the U.S. ships in the Persian Gulf by the Iranians, not by the Americans. This is Iranian aggression. And for the Secretary General of the United Nations to say, oh my gosh, the United States has raised the threat. No, the threat was raised by the Ayatollah and his henchmen, not by the United States and not by Israel.
Let me move over into an ex-FBI agent that talks about sleeper cells inside the United States of America.
Walder, News Nation national security contributor, former staff operations officer.
James says, I refuse to set a profile photo, Anton. Okay. Why do y'all announce these type of things? If you don't want to set a profile photo, you don't have to. I'm not going to acknowledge you. I just acknowledged you, but I'm not gonna bring up your comment or anything like that. I'm gonna focus more on real people, because anybody can troll, anybody can create a fake. You know what I'm saying? I don't do letters. I don't like looking at letters. And so, although I appreciate you being here and I thank you for participating in the chat, I have to focus more on people that actually look like real people. So, I mean, listen. God bless you. Nobody is gonna ban you for not having a profile photo. I just don't look at you as a real person. I look at you as a bot, so to speak.
For the CIA's Counterterrorism Center, also formerly with the FBI with us now. Tracy, good to see you. Perfect guest for this. As I watched cable news all day today, it said on the bottom of the screen, does Iran have sleeper cells, ? And I thought to myself,
thank you, Lady Maria.
It would be more shocking if they didn't have people that they'd infiltrated over the southern border in the past 4 years than if they did.
Well, thank you for having me, Leland. And you're absolutely right. I don't even understand why this is a question. I hate to be so blunt, but that's how I feel about it. They have sleeper cells here. They have, quite frankly, for decades. I don't actually think that this is new. I think we may have more of an influx, right, that we're discussing, but this isn't new. They're here. They have been here. They are just waiting for the right moment. And the fact that we're curious and questioning as to whether or not they're here is actually very shocking to me.
All right, so the Ayatollah, America will suffer if America gets involved in the war. Take a listen.
America's intervention in this matter is 100% to their detriment. What they will suffer in this regard is much greater than what Iran may suffer. The damage America will suffer if it makes a military intervention in this field will undoubtedly be irreparable.
What does a sleeper cell attack look like? Is this another 9/11 or something different?
I think it could be a combination. I actually don't think it's going to look like a 9/11 type attack, a very complex attack. That's really what 9/11 was. It required a lot of money, a lot of financing, and a lot of planning. I don't think that's what we're going to see here because obviously the world has changed, right, in the last 25 years. And there's been a lot of success in these kind of lone wolf or inspired by attacks. And so I think they're going to be kind of more lone wolf style. I also think that we could be looking at attacks to our critical infrastructure as well that we are not expecting. So I think it's going to look less like a 9/11 style attack, sort of shock and awe, if you will, and more in an unsuspecting way. And I actually am very concerned about our critical infrastructure.
Yeah, you think about July 4th coming up, that would be target number one. Every city and town in America has gatherings, and we know what can happen at big gatherings. History of sleeper cells in the United States. Obviously, the Soviet Union was some of the best at having their illegals. The World Trade Center bombing, the Millennial Plot, September 11th, Detroit sleeper cell, Disneyland plot, Hezbollah operative arrests. How do you find, and I hate to use the sort of cliche, I don't think you're looking for a needle in a haystack. You're looking for a needle in a hay field or hay barn, right?
You're absolutely right. It's near impossible to find these individuals because, as you mentioned before, some of them did not enter the U.S. legally, but some of them actually are homegrown, right? So we have this combination that makes it incredibly difficult to identify individuals that might not even come up on our radar. I mean, even if you go back as far as to September 11th, right? Those individuals had actually entered the U.S. legally. Had we checked their visas properly, obviously we would have known because we know that now. But that's the difficult part of all of this. They lead these seemingly normal lives, right? Drawing no attention to themselves whatsoever. But they have to get messages in some way. They have to get a signal in some way. And that's where I'm hoping they will slip up and we will ultimately catch them.
Thank you for watching.
So I guess the only thing that really would scare us in general is the possibility of something happening on American soil, which is just unfathomable for most of us. Is it a possibility of an attack? It's always a possibility of an attack. The most probable thing would be if there are sleeper cells inside of the United States of America. To be honest with you, you know what I think? You know what I honestly believe? I believe that this is going to be yesterday's news, the same way that it was yesterday's news with regard to everything that happened. When stuff first blow up, when stuff first come online, we cover it. We think it's a big deal. I know everybody, to be honest with you, I think that most people want World War III, World War III. Oh my God, it's World War III. We're already in a world war. People can't wait to be in a victim. They can't wait to have some dramatic stuff to report. What up, Classy? I think that in a month, maybe not even a month, 3 weeks, 2 weeks, we're going to forget about everything. And we're going to move over into whether or not Diddy got convicted. And that's going to be the big news, is whether Diddy got to go to jail or not. We're going to move on. It's going to be the next news cycle. Everybody going to make a big deal about everything, but then we going to move over into something different, and it's just going to be a whole nother conversation, honestly. Honestly, I believe that that's going to be the play. I think that the biggest thing is that we going to move over into something completely different. And it's just going to be a whole nother conversation, honestly. Y'all want to talk about something money related? Let's talk about something money related, bro. I'm tired of all of this war talk. It's tiring and it's old.